Good evening, everyone. I hope you've been well. I hope your week has been fine. So once again, this is Understand with Lyn. I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much. I'm humbled if you've subscribed, and if you've not, please make sure you subscribe and also ask a friend to subscribe. So I want first of all to apologize. I've not been able to post any content of recent. I've been so busy. Apart from me doing this, I also have a job that I attend to and some other works, of course. So I want to really welcome you, feel welcome. And again, I would wish you to please pay attention to whatever I'm going to say, because I believe especially our college students and anyone may be taking any course on catering and accommodation, food and beverage, etc. I'm hoping this content will really be of an impact to you. So I welcome you to this channel, and I really pray that God will enable me to be able to impact knowledge to if not all, but at least a few of you. So welcome you so much, and yeah, welcome. So let's get on with it. So the last time I was teaching on control, we reached a point whereby I talked about objectives of control and also problems and also characteristics of control. So in this case, today I want us to look at another topic on still on control, but in this case we call it the control phases. So of course, control phases, as let me do a rewind of what we've been doing. So control, we've talked about it. It's measures that are put in place to be able to curb maybe theft, to curb pilferages and also breakages and also wastages. So in this case, I talked about so many. I remember I gave so many examples in the kitchen, in the restaurant area, and also in the housekeeping, laundry may be part of etc. So again, control. When you talk about control, we have so many things again we need to control about in these sections, because if you're a hotel manager or an owner, and of course you've employed people, staff to work in your restaurant or in your hotel, you need control measures for the things or operations to run smoothly. And without these control measures or without the control, then be sure that your business or your organization may not run as expected. Remember again, you being the owner or the manager of this particular hotel, and these people that you're working with, if you don't guide them, you may have an objective at the end of the year. You want to be in this place. You may have, of course, targets. You may have visions of your organization, but when you don't share them with your staff and also the subordinates that are working for you, of course you'll not be able to meet your expectations, simply because you have to work hand in hand with your staff so that you're able to acquire or achieve the objectives you have for your organization or your hotel. And in this case now, that's where now these control measures, because again, I always say that the most difficult person to control is an adult. You know, a child, you can control them here and there. You can tell them to go there, they go. You can tell them to come back here, they come. But again, when you talk about an adult, it is very difficult to control them, because already they have the mind to do, they know what is good and bad, of course, and they have already they have control over themselves. So telling them to don't throw trash in that place, then you find them throwing. You know, you cannot control them. A good example is I believe each and every one of us, kuna zile kuta zinakwanga zimeandikwa usikojoe hapa, or don't dump here. Then you'll find that is the place where people dump a lot, or that is the place where people will urinate. So that becomes very difficult to control a human being, especially an adult. But when you put up rules and regulations and also now the control measures, at least somehow you can be able to work with them so as you're able to achieve your objective of the organization. So now when you come now to control, of course, when you want to implement a control measure, you must plan for it. You must plan for it before you implement it, and also before you check if the control measure is actually working. So let me give an example of a scenario maybe in school that most students may be familiar with. Let me talk about the biometric. So you'll find some schools or colleges, they do ensure maybe when the staff are coming in or the students are coming in during the morning hours, every time you're coming to the organization, you put your thumb or whichever finger that you use on the biometric. So in this case, the biometric, maybe had a case. Let me give an example of a college scenario or a school scenario. So maybe we have a lot of students coming into classes and they have not paid their school fees. So the management maybe sat down, they saw maybe have against the number of students that have paid the school fees, maybe 1% have paid, and the 9% out of 10 they have not paid the school fees. So the management saw this as a problem, sat down, because if the students, especially most of the private colleges, if the students have not paid the school fees, then you'll find that other things will not run smoothly, because again maybe they rely on the student fee to do some or to run some issues. So they realize that the 9% have not paid their school fees. So they come up with a way or a control measure on how we can be able to control these students from not coming to or sneaking to class without paying the school fees. So they introduced the biometric. So they put maybe a security guard at the gate, whereby any students that walks into the gate, they must be able to put their thumb on the biometric, so that you can be able to know who has paid and also who has entered or who has sneaked into class. So in this case, before the biometric, we had a lot of issues of students sneaking into the class without paying the school fees. But after we introduced the biometric, was this problem resolved? So the purpose of a control system or a control system, it is to make sure that the problem that was there before, it has been eliminated using the control system. But remember, again, we said one of the characteristics of a control system or an effective control system, we talked about it should be accurate. And again, a control system on one problem, it cannot be 100% accurate. They have and that one will tackle it when we come to reality of control. So it cannot be 100% efficient. So this biometric, maybe when we don't have power, it cannot work. So during that time, you may find some students taking that advantage. Maybe I've overheard somewhere that the biometric is not working. So maybe this is our chance to use and sneak into the class. So you'll find any control measure, it may work according to how you've planned it, but again, it cannot work 100%. Lazima ikuwe na hitilafu kidogo, because again, it has been made by man, or it is something man-made. So these control systems, of course, when you want now to introduce a control system now into the hotel setup, you cannot just wake up one day and introduce a control measure or a control system. You need steps or phases to be able to plan it, and of course, something you've planned, at the end of the day, the results of something planned becomes very good. A good example is, so that we are able to understand what I'm talking about when you control something or when you plan about something. So let me give a very easy example. So maybe you are a working class, or you leave your home in the morning and you come back in the evening. So when you leave in the morning, you plan. So we are looking at something planned and something not planned. So you plan that today in the evening I'm going to eat chapati and beans. So you make sure that maybe you have a house help at home, or you have someone helping in the house. So you tell them in the morning, make sure ikifika hii time wekele maragwe, so that by the time in the evening we are doing our dinner, already the chapatis and the beans are already cooked. So it means that you've planned for the dinner. So then we have this person B. So that one was person A. And then you have person B. And you left your house in the morning, you didn't plan to cook anything, so when you come during the evening, because you didn't plan very well on what you're supposed to eat during dinner, so what happens, you'll end up making maybe noodles, the easiest to cook, or most of us do ugali and you know the mayai ile whatever, you know it, huh? So you'll find because you've not planned yourself very well, you've not planned what to eat during the evening, then whatever happens, you most likely you'll be eating unhealthy food. So there is a secret in planning. So when you do things, when you plan things, of course at the end of the day you expect the results to be very nice. So any control measure, any control system that you want to put in place, if you want to get the best results out of this particular control system, then you really need to plan ahead. So that's how now we have the control phases. And control phases, they are in three aspects. So first of all, you have the planning phase. Number 2, we have operational phase, and number 3, we have management phase. Planning phase, operational phase, and management phase. So we will start with the planning phase, then go to the operational phase, then the management phase. But before I go into details, let me explain maybe each one of them briefly. So we start with the planning phase. So you want to introduce a control system either in the kitchen, in the restaurant, in the bar, in the rooms, in the front office, etc. So in that particular phase, you need to really plan. In most hotels, you'll find there is a certain committee that puts down policies and procedures and rules and regulations to be followed. So call this committee, sit down, have a meeting, talk about the policies, procedures, rules and regulations that you need this control system to target on. So when you plan, of course when we talk about 2 heads are better than 1, so you call maybe it's the planning, we talk about the kitchen, huh? So you make sure that the head chef is there, because again the head chef is the one who runs or is in charge of the kitchen. So and again, when this head chef was being employed at this organization, of course they looked at his qualifications and skills, what he can do, what he cannot do. So when he's called in that meeting, it simply means that he can do what he has, what it takes, especially maybe in advice, etc., whatever it takes to be able to run this kitchen. The same case with the restaurant. We call the restaurant manager. He should be there when the policies of the restaurants are being laid. Let's talk about housekeeping. The housekeeping manager should be there when the housekeeping policies are being laid. So we need to plan in the planning phase. In these all the departments, we need to really understand what are we getting ourselves into, what do we expect at the end of the day. So that is the planning phase, and we shall look at it briefly. Then we have the operational phase. So after you plan, of course, now you come into operations. So when you now start, when this now control system starts operating, will it be working according to how you planned it? You get. Then lastly, management. So is this control system being able to give you the data or the report that you put it in place for it to give you? So whichever control system, in the kitchen, in the housekeeping, in the laundry, etc., is it able to give you the management report? Are you able again to manage it according to how you planned in the first place? So let's look at each particular phase. So again, please pardon me, I'm using like a small blackboard, so I hope whatever is here, I'll really make sure I'll explain it very well. So focus on my mouth, don't focus so much, because again the cupboard is too small. Then so the handwriting, I was forced to write it in a very small font. But I hope you'll be able to understand. So thank you. So let's continue. So we have, so I say control phases are of 3. So we have the planning phase, the operational phase, and also the management phase. So let's start with the planning phase. So we have Before I start with the planning phase, we have steps involved in the control process. Steps involved in the control process, and there are majorly 5 steps. So we have establish standards, define expected results in all areas of operation. So we have established standards. So of course this, remember again, a control system is there to make sure that we eliminate cases of theft, cases of pilferage, cases of breakages, etc. So in this case, you establish standards. So of course, remember in the beginning I said you are the manager, you're the owner of this hotel. So where we become a manager, you have expectations, you have standards that you want to achieve, you have guests to please. So there is a certain standard that you want to achieve. So you must, because you're working with subordinates, you're working with your staff, you need to make them know that this is what is expected. So those policies and procedures that I talked about them earlier, make sure you share them with your staff so that they are able to know that this is what is expected of us. So establish those standards. So for that control system to work, it cannot work without the staff not being knowledgeable of what is expected. So let's talk about maybe cleaning of let me go slightly to housekeeping. So you'll find in housekeeping, especially in the practical side, I know most of you are familiar with those doing catering and accommodation. You'll find whenever we are cleaning surfaces, be it whichever surface that you can think of, we work with 3 small hand basins and also 3 non-fluffy cloths. So find the first basins, of course, the first basin, small basin, should hold warm water or hot water with detergent. The second one should hold warm water without detergent, and the third one should hold cold water for refreshing the surface. So you call your staff, you tell them this is how I want my surfaces to be cleaned. So every time you're cleaning that glass mirror, every time you're cleaning maybe a table, etc., you should have the 3 basins. So already that is a standard. So if you find a staff working with 2 basins or 1, then an action should be taken. So first of all, you as the person who is putting in place these control measures, first of all, establish those standards to your staff so that they are able to know. You get? Then 2, measure actual results of operations, e.g. Physical stock taking. So measure actual results of the operation. So again, before you establish the standard, check first of all originally what was happening. So before you introduce this control system, so that you can be able to control the 2. So you may find maybe we are cleaning a glass window. So before we were using a 1 basin and 1 cloth, glass cloth. Then after introducing this control measure to eliminate, to make sure that we maintain high standards of cleaning, then we introduce the 3 basin system. So find the actual, that is the 1 basin system, didn't bring about the high standards of cleaning that we expected. But after introducing the 3 basin system, we can actually see some difference. So look at the actual results. Then that's how number 3 we come now to compare the actual results with the expected results. So actual results, what results were you getting from the 1 basin system? Then after that, what results do you get after the 3 basin system? Let me, maybe for those who are doing food and beverage, you may not be familiar with that. So let me give an example in the kitchen, because food and beverage, catering and accommodation, of course, you get a chance to get into the kitchen. So let me give an example. So we have, let me take a very simple one, maybe shredding of cabbage. So maybe in your menu choices, you have somewhere you have maybe fried cabbage, braised cabbage, etc. So in this case, maybe before you introduced a control system or a control measure, we had a lot of wastages of cabbage. So find when you take a cabbage, ukichukua cabbage yoyote, we have the very green leaves before you get to the white leaves. So find the green leaves, not all of them, si zote zinakuanga mbaya. You get, maybe a few leaves zimekuliwa na caterpillar, a few leaves, 1 or 2 leaves zimeharibika, but the others are green. Then we get to the white part. So maybe one of the standards, or according to your standard recipe that the chef is using, maybe one cabbage you expect it to serve 7 or so people. You get, so inclusive of the green leaves that are not that bad. You get, so whenever these kitchen staff are shredding the cabbage, most of them throw away the green part of the cabbage. You know, kuna zile ziko na green mingi alafu ndo part ya white. So most of the staff tend to throw away. Then most of the staff tend to use blunt knives. So definitely when you use a blunt knife, you'll not be able to get the correct cut of the shred of the cabbage. You get, so in this case, the chef sees this is a problem because you're not able to get the number of portions expected. You get, so that is the problem. So the problem is we are not able to get the number of portions expected because number one, there is a lot of wastage of the cabbage, and number two, the tool being used, that is the knife being used, is very blunt. So the chef looks for a way we can be able to curb this problem of wastage. So he goes and asks for advices around, and analetewa ile maybe a mandolin, or analetewa kuna hizi tu machine tudogo twa kukata cabbage, cutters. I don't know if that is the correct word to call them, but I'm sure you've seen them. Kuna rutu tu machine tunatumia kukata sukuma, cabbage. So the chef goes to the market or orders from the supplier, analetewa kale ka machine. So the machine, of course, it will cut better than the staff. So it is there cutting very nice shreds. So from that day the machine was bought, we were able to meet the target of serving 5 portions per cabbage. So that means the control measure that was brought, it is buying this machine ya kukata cabbage. So initially, before the machine was bought, we had the problem of wastage. So I want you to see how this control measure will help. So we had a lot of wastage. So instead of serving 5 portions, we were serving 3 portions. So hapa tulikuwa tunaenda loss ya 2 portions. But after buying the machine ya kukata, we were able to even sell the 5 portions. So this control measure was able to help to remove the problem of wastage. I hope you understand. So you should make sure that you measure actual results. So measure actual results before implementing the control measure. Then when you implement the control measure, number 3, compare actual results with the expected results. Then number 4, take corrective action. So if maybe the control measure is not able to work according to how your expectations were, you should be able to take control measures. Maybe buy another machine or look for a way that you can be able to devise to be able to save on cost. Then number 5, preview effects of corrective action after a certain period of time. So after you introduce this control measure, give it time. Of course, you need to give the control system quite some time for you to be able to see, was it able to save you from the misfortunes that you had, or the problems that you had up to this date. So maybe you can give yourself maybe 3 months, 6 months, a year, and you're able to control. Remember when we started, I gave an example of students sneaking in class without payment of fees. So after introduction of the biometric system, so do we still have so many students coming in class without payment of fees? Ama was the problem reduced? So you should be able to compare. You should be able to take or to preview whatever the results. You had the actual results and the now results, so that you can be able to see, was the corrective action that I took, was it able to save up on cost? Was it able to do whatever it was intended to do? So steps involved in control processes. So establish standards. Number 2, measure measure actual result of operation. 3, compare actual results with the expected results. Number 4, take corrective action. And number 5, preview the corrective actions after a certain period of time. Sorry. So let's now go to our 3 control phases. That is planning phase, operational phase, and also management phase. So we start with the planning phase. So again, you must plan for the control system. You cannot just wake up one day and start doing the control system. So we have, of course, policies are predetermined and guidelines laid by the senior management, e.g. matters of market segment being aimed at, how to be catered for, and the level of profitability. So in this case, we need to plan on whatever we, however we need, on whatever this control we need on the control phase we need to do, or how we want it to work. So in this case, we are talking about also profitability levels. So you introduce a control measure in the kitchen, you introduce a control measure, in the laundry or whichever place. So of course, each business, I believe, it does have what do we call it? What do I call it? We have let me maybe talk about it in another dimension. Every business in Akwanga na, or we call it an accounting period. So at the end of the year, every business should have a target profit on how much profit do you want to have at the end of the year. So in this case, at the planning phase, this control system, remember control system paying us idea when they are well put in place, they help also in achieving these sales and also the profits. So you should be able to plan very well on how you will achieve your profitability using the control system that you've put in place. Also the market, which market is to be targeted. So in this case, again, in a hotel, whenever whoever person is opening this hotel, they do have a target. So a target in this case may be the market. So you don't just wake up one day and open a restaurant or a hotel. Let me give an example. So maybe where you live, we have these people in the morning who sell mandazis. You get? So maybe this person, or let me give an example of a daycare. So where you live, you have a lot of babies in that place. Then you get an idea, what if I start a daycare? Or in this place that I live, I have a lot of babies, a lot of house moms, and you've observed over a period of time that these moms really suffer and they wish they could go to work, but they're not able because they have to look after their little babies. So you come up with an idea, what if I start a daycare? So you start a daycare. So definitely when you start that daycare around that place, you'll have, or you'll be able to achieve your expectation. Why? Because of course already you have the market. The market is the babies. So ukianza ile biashara ya daycare, of course biashara itakuwa because already the market is. So whenever you're planning to start any business, make sure that you have identified the market. And the market in this place, I'm not talking about the market ile the open air place. Not that one, huh? I'm talking about the people who you are targeting to buy. Let me give an example of a company like Pampers or Soft Care. So this company, ile ina deal na Pampers. So they know, of course, on a daily basis we have babies being born. So these companies, they don't feature themselves collapsing because there is no day tutakosa mtoto amezaliwa na anataka Pampers. You get? So you must identify that market gap that you want to cater for, and of course know how to cater for them. You've opened a business, maybe your target market, they are old age people, those who want healthy eating. So whenever you're cooking something, you must make sure that you put the aspect of healthy eating in your food. For example, we have those that are do not need or maybe less salt, less fat, wengine wanataka wako gluten free. So whenever you're cooking, you must ensure that you tell your staff that make sure, remember our target market, hawakulangi salt mingi, hawakuli mafuta mingi, they love boiled foods over fried foods, etc. So consider how you cater for that market. In the planning phase, there are quite some policies that are being considered in this place. So in this case, we have the financial policy. So determines the level of profitability, cost limits to be expected from the business, total profit expected from each department, for example accommodation and also catering, as well as other departments. So financial policy in the planning phase, you need to establish the financial policy in this case for the various departments. So of course, when you're opening this hotel of yours, if it is a 5-star hotel, it may have the different departments. If it is a 2-star hotel, it may have the different departments. Kama ni hizi non-rated, whereby you just have find the kitchen and the eating area, it also have you also need to plan about it. So let me talk about a 5-star hotel that has, maybe it has a cocktail bar, it has the banqueting halls, it has conferences, it has meeting spaces, it has the kitchen, and all those the gym, all those places that you can think of. So each department, it is expected to give a certain profit. It is expected to give a certain target profit at the end of the accounting period. So if it is the kitchen, if it is the restaurant, housekeeping, laundry, etc. So be able to make sure. And how would you know? I know maybe some of you may be asking, how would we've not started the business, and how would a business know how much to give? So of course, you as the manager of the planning committee, you know the services that you're going to provide. So let me give an example of the laundry. So laundry, maybe you'll be doing the valet services. Maybe you'll be doing the kufua. Maybe the housekeeping, you'll have telephone services, you'll have front office, you'll have concierge, etc. So all those services that you want to provide, of course there is the prices that you've set up that you want to sell the products or the services at. So each price, maybe let's talk about laundry services, kufuliwa nguo. So maybe a skirt will be laundered at 200 shillings. If you bring a suit that needs dry cleaning, you'll pay 3,000 shillings etc. So you already have the prices. So you should be able to establish a target profit that you want that product or that department to give you. The same case with accommodation and also catering. Catering, in this case, provision of food and beverages, and also accommodation, that is as a whole. So each dish that you're selling, you have its price. So you have maybe a leg of lamb with roasted potatoes and whatever. So that plate goes for 2,500. So you'll know that with the price, you can be able to know how much you expect to get at the end of the day. Then we have the marketing. So that was the financial policy. So make sure you put in place the sales profitability, expected profits that you want to get, also the total cost that you want to get, the revenue that you want to get. Then also the marketing policy. This will identify the market the operations is intended to serve, should identify the present and future customer requirements in a large hotel, e.g. coffee shops, etc. So in this case, I'm talking about the marketing, the market policy. So this one, the owner or the person owning the hotel should be able to determine the customer requirements. So of course, before you started this business, there is certain customers that you wanted to target. Maybe it's the expectant mothers, maybe it's the Muslims, maybe it's the Christians, maybe it's fast foods, maybe it's popular catering, that is maybe the restaurant, whichever target market, whichever market you wanted to target. So in this case, have a marketing policy. How do you want to cater for their needs? How can you be able to tell their future trends of taking your products and services? You should be able to come up with that. For example, you have the cavalry, coffee shops, cocktail bars, banqueting rooms, each having different customer requirements. So in this case, market, maybe you come up with an establishment targeting those people having meetings, you know, the business travelers. So you open an establishment. Your main target market is the business traveler. So whereby or maybe business people, whereby you come up with you build rooms, that is meeting spaces, conference centers. So of course our wenye wanakuja biashara, they have different requirements. So there are those that may need to use the projector, there are those that may need to use a whiteboard, there are those that may need to use different requirements. So find when you're constructing this meeting space, you make sure that kuna mahali umeweka pale maybe projector inaweza ekwa, that is a requirement. Kuna mahali umeweka maybe a whiteboard somewhere, you've provided a duster, you've provided writing materials, etc. So when you know the target market, the person that you're targeting your business to reach to, then you can be able to predict what future requirements they may have. Let me give another example of a cavalry. Cavalry, I would say, or I would rather call it a meat joint, where people go have maybe nyama choma, etc. So find in this place, most likely you are supposed to know, yes, people have come to eat the meat. What does roast meat go well with? So you should have a place set aside for wines and spirits. You should have a place set aside for maybe an alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages to cater for these people being in the cavalry. So you should be able to identify the requirements of your target market, because already you know, and before again you decide which business to start, as I said earlier, you should do a thorough research on your market. So you're targeting office workers, you're targeting maybe people, pedestrians, passers-by. So you should be able really to understand your market so that you're able to provide whatever they need today and also for their future requirements. Then number 3, policy. In the planning phase, you have the catering policy. So already you've outlined your financial policies, you've now outlined your marketing policy. So the next one is the catering policy. So in this case, catering, remember, it's provision of food and beverage and also accommodation. So how will you want it to be? So it will describe how the following will be achieved. Number 1, the type of customer, e.g. high spending or low spending customer. So of course, that's why I'm talking about the market being very essential. You cannot just sleep and wake up one day and you decide I want to sell thrift clothes. You cannot wake up one day and decide I'll be selling butter shoes. You have to do a research. The target market that you want these people to buy from you, do they really need that product? Because it is so bad starting a business, then you find in the middle way that you start regretting, singefungua hii, ningefungua ile. I think ningefungua ile ingefanya poa kuliko. That is so bad, regretting. You know, we are told that business, we should, if you want to start a business, you take a risk. But again, regrets are so bad. So you really need to study your target market so that when you start this business, you're able to really know what your target market needs. So identify your type of customer. Are they high spending customers or low spending customers? So let me give a good example. Let's talk about these high-end areas. Let me talk about maybe Karen and a place, maybe Karen and maybe Kibera. Sorry to use the example. So fine, if you start a restaurant in Karen, you expect high spending customers, you get. But when you start a restaurant, like a kiosk, a food kiosk, you expect not very high spending customers. So ukifungua pale Karen, of course you cannot, maybe you'll find maybe a plate, I've never eaten from there, but maybe you'll find a plate of chipo going for 300 shillings or 500 shillings, because already you've known that my target customers can be able to afford. Then when you come now to the food kiosk in Kibera, ukieka a plate of chips at 300 shillings, I don't know who will buy. Maybe a few, 1 or 2 customers, but most of them need ile ya kupima. Kuna ile ya 50 hata ya mbao, ile chipo mwitu chipo mwitu or something. So find according, you should be able to study your customer. Are they high spending? Are they low spending? Because ile food kiosk ya Kibera, ukieka that plate of chipo at 300, be very sure that you'll not be able to to achieve your objective of the business, you get, because your customers are not high spending. But ukiweka ile again, in the same case, ukiweka the same kiosk in Karen, then the same plate of chipo uweke 50 bob. You know, people will be, so those ones are known to be high spending, but umeweka 50 bob. So you'll find hata watakuja kuulize, why is this French fries so cheap? You know, hata utapata ile morale ya kupandisha juu, because they have the capability to spend. So know your customers. Then 2, the type of menu. Also, that is a la carte or table. So know the type of menu that you're talking about. Everyone in catering and accommodation, food and beverage, also ICM, you know about the type of menus. So you have the 2 major ones, that is a la carte menu and table dot menu, and also the other adaptations of the 2. So the type of menu that you're using, so the catering policy should cover the type of policy, the type of menu that you're using. So pale kwa policy yenu mmesema mtakuwa mna deal na a la carte or table dot menu. Then 3, we have beverages provision. So business yako, will you be dealing with that is alcoholic beverages or non-alcoholic beverages? If you have non-alcoholic, then make sure you have a license for it. If it is non-alcoholic, then well and good. The methods of buying, e.g. contract or cash and carry. So outline in your policy in the planning phase. Remember, we are still in the planning phase. So in the planning phase, under the catering policy, outline how do I want my customers to be buying my products or services. Is it by contract, is it by tender, or is it by cash and carry? Then you also have the type of services. Is it a counter service or a cafeteria type? So type of services, maybe when you're doing food and beverage service, you covered this. So we have types of services or methods of services. We have the counter type. Counter type is that one, most of it is self service, whereby you buy food at a counter. Unaona kama hizi fast food we find in town, whereby there is a counter, you go, you stand there, you pay, then you move to the another counter, then unapea na receipt, unapewa food. That is counter service. Or is it cafeteria type? Whichever type, ensure that you are applying the catering policy. Then you also have hours of operation. So in the catering policy, also outline the hours of operation of your business. So is it a 24-hour system, 24-hour business running? Will it be running for 24 hours? Or will it be a 7 days a week, or will you be closing on Sundays? So outline the hours of operation. Then food quality standards. Will you be selling fresh food, frozen food, canned food, etc.? Then the degree of comfort and decor. So in this case, how do you want your restaurant to look like in terms of degree of comfort and also that is the decor? So let me give an example. If it is a fast food, that is a fast food whereby most of the customers come and do not take up long in your restaurant. So in that case, you cannot put comfortable sofas or chairs on the eating area if it is a fast food, because customers wanaingia kama wametoka, you know, takeaway. Let me give an example of a takeaway. So in any takeaway restaurant, in any takeaway outlet, you'll not find comfortable chairs. And again, takeaway, you'll not find any chairs, because the policy or the context of these establishment, it is takeaway. So you buy, then you take it away and eat in another place. So you'll not find sitting arrangements in that place. But let's talk about maybe a fast food restaurant. There you will find sitting arrangements or sitting spaces, chairs and tables. So for that one, again, you'll find maybe the decor has been maintained, the theme. So maybe they have a certain theme in this restaurant, so you'll find the theme being maintained. Let's go to a lounge area. So lounge area, it's where people relax, taking alcoholic drinks, etc. So you'll find in this place, ni ile places unapatanga zile masofa kubwa, whereby you can sit there, very comfortable sofas, you can relax there for quite some time. So in that case, whichever catering outlet that you're establishing, then ensure the degree of comfort and decor according to the type of establishment has been achieved. Then lastly we have not lastly, so in that case now let me rewind kidogo. So we've talked about the 3 control phases: the planning phase, the operational phase, and management phase. So I've just discussed the planning phase, whereby we have the financial policy, we have the catering policy, and also the marketing policy. So the next control phase, we have the operational phase. So tusha plan kila kitu, sasa juu kila kitu iko in place, now we need to start operations. That's why it's called an operational phase. So we have, it has 5 main stages. We have purchasing. So you've set up the business already. You have put up policies and procedures you want to be followed in this business. So after sasa umeplan, sasa umekuja into operation, you now need to start running the business. But in this case, remember, you're talking about the food and beverage controller. And we're talking about the catering, that is provision of food and beverage, maybe plus accommodation. So in this case, we'll talk about food and beverage majorly in the kitchen. So fine, before that food or beverage goes to the customer's table, it undergoes through 5 main phases, or it undergoes through steps for it to be able to be prepared and also cooked and served to the guests. So before we have that food at the customer's table, the first thing that we do, we purchase the item. So the first point under operational phase, we need to purchase the items, the food and beverages we need. So we have the main points under purchasing. We have product testing. So product testing, so this is a test, having a test panel evaluation. So you want to start selling a product or a service. You want to start selling this food or beverage. So what happens? So before you sell this item to your customers, then you need to have a product testing. So ukienda kupurchase pale, I don't know, most of us do not when you're buying a nyumba, most of us do not test, you know. But when you're doing a commercial business, or in this case a hotel, you really need to test, because in this case, especially if your target market is so it's near watu wengi, you need to really product test. So go to this company that you're purchasing from, or this supplier that you're purchasing from. Test that product. Have an evaluation. Have a testing evaluation panel, so that they are able to call a committee. Ita head chef pale, ita sous chef, ita general manager, etc. Have them test the item before it can be purchased, because most of the time unapatanga usha purchase the item, alafu unapata ukishafika kwa nyumba unapata imeharibika. Also maybe in the markets you've seen, especially those who sell, I've seen maybe hawa wanauzanga oranges or avocados, wanakuanga wameka moja pale wamekata. So if you go there as a customer, wanakwambia na before you purchase, shika hii kwanza uonje. So that is already product testing. So before you purchase, you should do a product testing. The same case with oranges or any other, maybe melon, etc. I don't know. So napata wanakupea ka sample ka kutest, so that ukienda na whole melon at home, you're very sure that the melon is very okay. So we have product testing. 2, we have yield testing. Identify the yield obtained from the major commodities used. Yield, it's something gotten, it's a result of something, you know. Yield testing. So in this case, what let me give again an example of potatoes. So potatoes, you need to know 1 kg maybe in your restaurants gives you 5 portions. So chukua zile maybe after now you verify that the product is okay by product testing, then check the yield. So maybe purchase those potatoes, come with them in your kitchen, then peel them very well, then see that if 1 kg of potatoes will give you 5 portions. So before one's produce now to now the selling, una produce ukisell, first of all test the yield. So if yield, in this case I've talked about the yield obtained, that is the the number of portions you're supposed to get from 1 kg. So if you get 5 portions, then you're in a car standard that 1 kg from now henceforth will give you 5 portions. But usipofanya yield testing, sometimes itakuwa inakupea 3, sometimes inakupea 5, sometimes inakupea 2. So you should do a yield testing. 3, we have purchase specification. So this is a description of the size, weight, color, etc. So this one I usually give an example of a common one. You're going to buy maybe when ni mtoto wa shule, then you're going to buy a shoe. So shule yenu mnavanga a shoe that is black closed shoe, low heel. So and again maybe yako unavanga number 29 or number 39. So what happens? So ukienda pale kwa Bata, ukienda pale kwa ile shoe shop, the shoe that you're going to buy, it must be black, it must be size number 39, it must be low heel, it must be closed. Ambapo ukipata ya red, ambapo ukipata ya purple, you will not purchase because already you have a purchase specification. You have specified that I want a black, low heel, closed, number 39 shoe. So that is a purchase specification. Let me give an example. Sasa ya food item. So in this case, you're going to the butchery to buy meat. So you want a rib steak, maybe you want a sirloin steak, you want a tenderloin. So ukienda pale upate, wewe unataka sirloin steak but umepata tenderloin ama umepata ribeye steak. So you'll not purchase the ribeye steak because your purchase specification was supposed to be a sirloin steak, sorry. Maybe another purchase specification by weight, that is specification by type. By weight, maybe you wanted a 10 kg. So ukienda pale but a 50 kg, you will not buy because you needed a 10 kg. So before you purchase an item, you must have the purchase specification. And purchase specification is very essential because in a creating a standard. You get, even as maybe ladies or us or gentlemen, maybe for ladies, maybe ukiulizwa, what is your kind of man? So what would you say? I want the tall, dark and handsome. You get, so that is a specification. So if any man approaches me, they are not tall, they are not dark, they are not handsome, I'll not marry them. So my specification is tall, dark and handsome. So before I purchase this item, I must make sure that it is according to my specification. You get. Then one we have the method of buying. So which method will your customers be buying? Is it by cash and card? So not customers, but in this case we are talking about a supplier because we are talking about the purchasing stage. So how will you be purchasing your items? Is it by cash and carry? Is it by tender? Is it by contract? etc. Established. Then finally you have clerical procedures. Of course, bill of records. Anything bill of records, you cannot be able to give a verification, you cannot be able to give a reference in future. So make sure you have clerical procedures. In this case, we can talk about the local LPOs, local purchase orders, the purchasing maybe requisition that was written by the specific department. So that is purchasing under the operational phase. Then 2, under operational phase, after purchasing we receive. So receiving, now umesha purchase, so umeleta huku kwa hoteli. So now in the receiving area, you should have a person employed